Today, I'm taking you straight into the greatest maritime disaster in history. Everyone knows Titanic sank, but in this video you're going to discover 10 shocking facts, real photographs, and long-hidden details that most people have never heard about. So what's in this video? Why Titanic was actually a giant ready to sink? Why the iceberg was invisible that night? What happened inside during the first seconds of the collision? The real photograph of the infamous iceberg? Why people died within minutes? Why lifeboats were lowered half empty? And why the wreck remained undiscovered for 73 years? In short, this video reveals the real Titanic story, the version you never see in the movies. If you're ready, let's travel together to that. Frozen night, 113 years ago. Point 1. The true size of Titanic, 1 to 2 o'clock. We all know Titanic was big, but most people can't even imagine its real scale. This ship was basically a floating city that could carry more than 3,000 passengers, had grand staircases, a gym, a Turkish bath, a swimming pool, a palace drifting in the middle of the ocean. But no one ever imagined that this enormous size would one day become the ship's greatest weakness. Point 2. Why was the iceberg invisible? 2 to 3:30. How did such a massive ship not see an iceberg? It's the question everyone asks. That night, the ocean was unbelievably calm. No waves. No splash. Nothing. Without waves, the foam that normally forms around an iceberg was invisible. By the time the lookouts spotted it, it was already too late. And there's more. The lookouts' binoculars were missing. They were locked in a cabinet, and the key was with an officer who wasn't on the ship anymore. Point 1. Tiny detail triggered one enormous disaster. Point 3. The collision. Why did it sink so fast? 3:30 to 5 o'clock, Titanic didn't hit the iceberg head. It scraped along the side. And that was actually worse. Multiple openings were torn along the hull. Engineers had calculated that the ship could stay afloat with 1 or 2 flooded compartments. But that night, 5 filled with water. As the water spread, the bow began to sink. The deeper it sank, the more water poured into other compartments, and the giant Titanic began collapsing into the Atlantic. Point 4. The real iceberg photo, evidence hidden for 100 years, 5 to 6:30. Is there a real photograph of the iceberg that sank Titanic? Yes, most likely. After the disaster, the captain of another ship passing through the area saw a dark red streak on an iceberg. It was Titanic's paint. He photographed it, but the picture was lost for decades. After the wreck was found, experts re-examined the photo, and the markings matched perfectly. Today, we are almost certain that the famous iceberg photo is the one that destroyed Titanic. Point 5. Why did people die so quickly in the water? 6:30 to 8 o'clock. Most passengers didn't drown, they froze to death. The ocean water was 2 degrees C. No human body can survive that. Within minutes, muscles shut down, breathing stops. Consciousness disappears. Years later, a man tried entering water at the same temperature. He lasted only 45 seconds. This is why lifeboats didn't return. Most of the people in the water were already gone within minutes. Point 6. Why were half the lifeboats nearly empty? 8 to 9:30. One of Titanic's biggest mistakes. There weren't enough lifeboats. But even worse, the lifeboats they did have weren't filled properly. Crew members panicked. Some lifeboats that could hold 60 people were lowered with just 18 to 20 passengers. If the boats had been filled to capacity, more than 500 additional people could have survived. Point 7. Why the real sinking wasn't like the movies? 9:30, 11 o'clock, everyone knows Titanic broke in half. But the reality was far more violent than what movies show. When the stern lifted into the air, massive boilers, steel beams, and support columns inside the ship collapsed like dominoes. Survivors said the sound echoed across the Atlantic, a noise they could never forget. Their descriptions still give chills today. 8. Why the wreck was found only after 73 years. 11 to 12:30. Finding Titanic's wreck was an adventure of its own. In 1985, Robert Ballard wasn't actually searching for Titanic at first, that he was on a secret mission to locate two lost U.S. Navy submarines from the Cold War. Only after completing that mission was he allowed to use the remaining time to search for Titanic. And 73 years after the disaster, 4 kilometers below the surface, the ghostly remains of Titanic finally appeared. 9. The new 3D scans, Titanic's condition today, 1230 to 1400 hours. Recent ultra-detailed 3D scans have revealed the ship's current state like never before. Every section of the wreck has been mapped down to the millimeter. The rudder is broken, funnels have collapsed, cabins have caved in, but the legendary Grand Staircase, its remains are still there. These scans show how breathtaking and how fragile Titanic truly was. Key Captain: the truth behind the legend, 14 to 1500 hours. Titanic wasn't just the sinking of a ship, it was the sinking of humanity's belief in invincibility. The world's strongest ship was defeated by a block of ice. And the reason we still talk about this story today is simple. Titanic is a massive tale woven from human mistakes, bravery, and fragility. No splash,